بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Irregular verb, Part 5, Naqis verb. Assalamu alaikum everyone. In this lesson, we begin fil Naqis, the defective verb. A Naqis verb is called Naqis because its weakness is in the last radical. Usually that last radical is either waw or ya, because the weakness is at the end. The ending of the verb does not always stay in one shape. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it becomes lighter, and sometimes it drops completely. That is why this lesson matters. If students understand where the weakness is, then the changes will stop looking random. And that is the main idea of this slide. These changes are not random. They happen through ta'lil, to make the word shorter, lighter, smoother, and easier to pronounce. Now on this slide, we have 4 rules. We will go through them in the same order as they appear. First, we have rule number 1, Madi verb 1. This rule says, if the last letter is either waw or ya, and the letter before it has fatha, then that final waw or ya changes into alif. So the first thing to notice is that the weak letter is at the end, and the letter before it has fatha. That environment causes the ending to become lighter. The slide gives us the example da'a. The meaning is he invited or he prayed. But according to the original root pattern, it should have been something like da'awa. So what happened? The final waw was weak, it came after fatha, and Arabic made the form lighter. So instead of keeping da'awa, the word settled into da'a. The weak ending changed for ease. The next example is baka, meaning he cried or he wept. According to the root letters, it goes back to something like bakaya. But again, because the final weak letter came after fatha, the ending was lightened and the word became baka. So in both of these, the heavy ending is shortened into a lighter alif ending. Then, the slide gives an important detail. It says, the final ya remains unchanged if the second radical has kasra. This is very important because it shows students that not every final ya changes in the same way. The examples are nasiya, he forgot, and baqiya, he remained. Here, the ya stays. Why? Because the kasra before it supports the ya, so the form does not need the same kind of shortening. So the rule is simple. After fatha, the final weak letter often becomes alif. But if the pattern is strongly tied to kasra before the ya, then the ya may remain. Now we come to rule number 2, Madi verb 2. This rule says, if a kasra is followed by a waw, the waw changes into a ya. Again, this is a sound change for ease. A waw after kasra is heavy and less natural on the tongue, so Arabic changes it into ya because ya fits better after kasra. The example given is radiwa becoming radia. The meaning is he was pleased or he became satisfied. So here, the original weak letter was waw, but because it came after kasra, it changed into ya. That is why we say radia, not radiwa. So students should remember this well. Kasra pulls the ending toward ya. That is the ta'lil here. The form changes to become smoother in pronunciation. Now we come to rule number 3, Mudari verb, and the slide mentions damma on ya and waw. Here the rule is telling us that after kasra or fatha, it is difficult to pronounce damma on a final ya or waw, so that damma becomes sukun. Again, the reason is ease of pronunciation. Arabic is removing heaviness from the ending. The examples on the slide show this clearly. We have form like yakshayu, which becomes yaksha. We have a form like yarmiyu, and that becomes yami. and yaduwu becomes yadu. So, what is happening in all of them? The ending is being lightened. The full heavier pattern is not kept. Instead, the word moves into a smoother spoken form. This is very important for students. In the Mudari, when the final weak letter would carry a heavy ending, Arabic often simplifies it. So yamiyu becomes yami, and yaduwu becomes yadu. The weak ending is still there in meaning, but the spoken form is lighter. Now we come to rule number 4, Amr formation. This rule says that when a fi'l naqis with ya or waw is changed into amr, meaning the command form, then the final ya or waw is dropped. This is one of the clearest places where students can actually see shortening happening. The slide gives the example from tada to irda. The meaning is, be pleased. The present form carries the weak ending, but when it becomes command, the weak letter drops and the form becomes shorter, irda. The second example is from tadi to ed. The meaning is guide. Again, in the present form, the weak ending is there, but in the command form, Arabic drops that weak ending and leaves a shorter, sharper command, ihti. So this rule is very easy to remember. In the amr of a naqis verb, the final weak letter often drops. Why? Because the command form likes brevity and lightness, so the word becomes shorter and easier to say. This slide is laying the foundation of the naqis verb. The weakness is in the last radical, and because of that, the last radical keeps reacting to the vowel and the pattern around it. In one place, it turns into a leaf. In another place, waw changes into ya. In the mudari, a heavy ending is reduced. And in the amr, the final weak letter may disappear completely. So the student should keep one question in mind. What happened to the final weak letter, and why? Usually the answer will be, it changed for ease, lightness, and smoother pronunciation. That is the logic of ta'lil. A useful memory line for this slide is, in fi'l naqis, the last weak letter does not stay fixed. It changes according to the pattern. And another memory line is, these changes are not random. They happen to make the word lighter and easier to pronounce. Rule number 5, Ismul Fa'il formation and others. On the previous slide, we learned the main rules of change in the naqis verb, especially in Madi, Mudari, and Amr. We saw that the final weak letter does not stay fixed. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it becomes lighter, and sometimes it drops completely. All of that happens through ta'lil, so that the word becomes easier and smoother to pronounce. On this slide, we continue the same lesson, but now the focus becomes wider. Here we are looking at Ismul Fa'il formation, and at the same time, we are also looking at several other naqis examples side by side. This is important because students should not only know one isolated word, they should learn to see the whole family together: the Madi, the Mudari, the Amr, and the Ismul Fa'il. Now let us go through the slide in the same order as it appears. The headings first show us the 4 forms we are studying here: Madi, Mudari, Amr, and Ismu Fa'il. So as we move through each row, we should keep watching the same route in these 4 forms and notice what changes happen. We begin with the first example, the root of da'a. In the Madi, the slide shows da'awa becoming da'a. This takes us back to the rule from the previous slide. The original form had a final weak letter, in this case, waw, but because it came after fatha, Arabic lightened the ending and the form became da'a. So the first thing students should notice is that the final weak letter has already gone through ta'lil in the Madi. Then, in the Mudari, the form shown is yadu becoming yadu. Again, Arabic does not keep the heavier ending. The final weak letter is made lighter, so the word settles into the smoother form yadu. Then, in the Amr, we see udu. Here, the form becomes even shorter, because the command form naturally tends toward brevity and lightness, so the weak ending is reduced and the word becomes udu. Then we come to Ismul Fa'il. The forms shown as follows: da'iwun, da'iyun, da'in, da'in, and da'in. The important point here is not to overwhelm students with all the endings at once. The important point is to see that the active participle is also built from the same root, and that the weak ending continues to affect the shape. The form does not stay heavy. It follows the pattern that gives the smoother noun shape. So in this first row, the student should notice one continuous story. Da'awa became da'a, yadu became yadu, the command became udu, and the ismul fa'il settled into forms like da'in and da'iyun. The weak final radical is being managed in every form. Now we move to the second row, the family of radia. In the Mahdi, the slide shows radiwa becoming radia. This is the rule we already learned. When kasra is followed by waw, the waw changes into ya. So here the change is very important. The original heavier form was radiwa, but Arabic changed the waw into ya, and that gave us the lighter form radia. Then, in the Mudari, the form shown is yadayu becoming yada. Again, the ending is lightened. The heavier final shape is not kept. Arabic reduces it to the smoother spoken form yada. Then, in the Amr, we get irda. Here again, the weak ending is shortened in the command form, and the result is the brief and easy form irda. Then, in the Ismul Fa'il, the forms shown: radiwun, radiyun, radiyin, radiyin, and radin. The same lesson continues here. The active participle is formed from the same root, but because the root ends with a weak letter, the shape of the noun is also affected. So students should see that the weakness does not disappear when we move from verbs to derived nouns. It still leaves its effect. Now we move to the third row, the family of Ramia. In the Mahdi, the form is Ramia. Here the final weak radical appears as ya, and this is already the settled Mahdi form. Then, in the Mudari, the slide shows yamiu becoming yami. So once again, the heavier ending is made lighter. Instead of keeping a more difficult final movement, the word settles into yami. Then, in the Amr, we get irmi. This again shows the shortening of the command form. The weak ending is reduced, and the command becomes short and easy. Then, in the Ismul Fa'il, the forms shown ramiyun, ramiyin, ramin, ramin, and ramin. The exact endings vary according to grammar, but the teaching point remains the same. The active participle comes from the same weak ending root, so the weakness still affects the shape of the word. Now we move to the fourth row, the family of kashia. In the Mahdi, the form is kashia. This means he feared, especially a fear that includes respect, greatness, and seriousness. Then, in the Mudari, the slide shows yakshayu becoming yaksha. Again, Arabic does not keep the heavier final form. It reduces it to the smoother spoken form yaksha. Then, in the Amr, we get iksha. Once again, the weak ending is reduced in the command form so that the word becomes shorter and easier. Then, in the Ismul Fa'il, the forms shown are kashyun, kashiyin, kashin, and kashin. So, the same story continues. The root is one, but the final weak radical keeps affecting the visible form. Now we come to the fifth row, the family of hadar. In the Mahdi, the slide shows hadaya becoming hadar. So here again, the original weak ending was present in the deeper form, but Arabic lightened it and gave us the settled Mahdi form Hadar. Then, in the Mudari, the form shown is Yahdiyu becoming Yahdi. This follows the same principle we have seen already. The heavier ending is reduced into a smoother form. Then, in the Amr, we get Ihdi. This is a very important form because many students know it already from recitation and dua. The command becomes shorter by dropping the weak ending. Then, in the Ismul Fa'il, the forms shown Hadiyun, Hadiyin, Hadin, and Hadin. Again, the weakness of the final radical still affects the noun form. Then finally, we come to the sixth row, the family of Ihtada. This is very useful because it shows that the same story does not only happen in the simple form, it also happens in a derived pattern. In the Mahdi, the slide shows Tadaya becoming Tada. So once again, the final weak radical is lightened in the settled past tense form. Then, in the Mudari, the form shown is Yahtadiyu, becoming Yahtadi. The final ending is made lighter. Then, in the Amr, we get Ihtadi. Again, the command form becomes shorter and smoother. Then, in the Ismul Fa'il, the forms shown are Muhtadiyun, Muhtadiyin, Muhtadin, and Muhtadin. So even in this derived form, the same principle remains. The weak final radical still causes visible change across the family. Next we begin with rule number 6, Maf'ul. The rule says, when waw and ya come side by side, the waw changes into ya, then the two are merged by idgham. The reason is simple. Keeping both together is heavy, so Arabic makes the form lighter. The pattern here is maf'ul, like makluk. In example 1, the root is ra-dwad waw, making the verb radia. The word goes through stages until it reaches the lighter settled form ma-dy. So the key point is this. The meeting of waw and ya creates heaviness. Then tabdil happens. Waw changes into ya. And after that, idgham gives the lighter final form. In example 2, the root is ba nun ya. Again, the word moves through stages until it settles as mabni. So exactly the same rule is working here as well. The form is simplified because waw and ya together are heavy. Now we come to rule number 7, mazid fi verb. The slide says that in mazid fi, especially in form 4, the harful illah may change according to the pattern. This shows that the change is not limited to the simple verb. It continues in derived forms as well. The root progression shown is ain twa waw, moving toward forms like atawa, atwan, and ata'an. The point is that the weak final radical does not stay in one fixed shape. It changes as the pattern changes, so the word becomes lighter. Then, the slide gives the practical form 4 example, ata and ut. Students may know these already, but the important thing here is to see why they look like this. The weak final radical has changed according to the derived pattern, giving us smoother settled forms. Now we come to miscellaneous. This section gathers several Naqis families together as revision. The first family is da'a. Forms like da'a, da'awa, da'awaw, yadu, tadu, udu, dawatun, and dua. This shows one root moving across different verb and noun forms. The weak ending does not stay exactly the same everywhere. It adjusts according to the form. The second family is radia. Here we see forms like radia, radia, radu, and the important change from radiu to radu, along with forms like raditu and radina. The lesson here is that when endings are added, the weak letter may again be shortened, dropped, or reshaped. The third family is kashia. Again, we see the same kind of pattern. forms like kashia, kashia, kashu, and the change from kashiu to kashu, then forms like kashitu and kashina. So students should notice that when extra endings come, the weak final radical may again cause contraction or reshaping. The fourth family is from Form 4, akfa, yukfi, akfi. This reminds us again that even in derived forms, the final weak radical still affects the visible shape of the verb. Now let us bring the slide together. This slide teaches us that the logic of fil naqis continues beyond the basic forms. It appears in ismul maf'ul, in derived patterns like Form 4, and across wider word families. Wherever the weak final radical creates heaviness, Arabic works to make the form lighter. So the main thing to remember is this: the weak final radical keeps changing wherever the pattern needs lightness and smoother pronunciation. A useful memory line is, when heaviness appears, Talil makes the form lighter. And another is, in fil naqis, the weak final letter keeps adjusting according to the pattern. Alhamdulillah, this brings us to the end of this lesson. If you found this video useful, we warmly encourage you to join our online complete self-study course at Al-Qur'an Institute, designed for you to learn at your own time and space, where you will receive unlimited access to our PDF materials, multiple choice questions with answers, exams, and a certificate of completion. You can enroll through our website www.alquraninstitute.net or contact support directly from the website. If you benefited from this video, please like and share, subscribe to our channel, and press the bell icon to receive all future lessons. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your Quranic Arabic journey easy, fill your heart with clarity and love for His words, and reward you abundantly in this world and the hereafter.